I started out in scouting, as most kids do, by joining the Cub Scouts. Back in the late 1950s, community entertainment where I live was pretty much groups like the Boy Scouts, which was held up at the fire hall, or going to our schools and churches. The neighborhood I grew up in was a small one just outside of Pittsburgh. We lived, and I still live, in a pre-Civil War farmhouse because I still live in the same house. It was a small community at the time, and it just seemed natural to the boys that we would join the Scouts. It was a rite of passage. I joined the Cub Scouts, I believe, in second grade. I can remember our dead mother was a woman that lived on the next street with her family, Mrs. Scheidler. She had 6 or 7 kids of her own, but here she was taking on this group of boys one night a week or one afternoon a week to meet with us and to help us learn. We'd go to the fire hall for our pack meetings. It was about a mile from my house. When you're a little boy, that seems pretty far away. We'd run around the fire hall, we'd have our meetings, but at some point in time, the Cub Scout leader would raise his hand, put his 2 fingers up in the air, bring everybody to quiet, and we'd have that meeting. The next step was to join the Boy Scouts, which was at the Catholic grade school that I went to. We started to venture out a little into the world, a little bit more. One of the things that I distinctly remember about Boy Scouts was we would go to a farm in southern Butler County 2 times a year. The farm had a lot of woods around it. We'd camp in those woods. And one of the things we did was go swimming in the pond. I remember it as a big pond. I'm sure it wasn't all that big. But it was a pond that was fed by natural springs. So you'd be swimming in one section, it'd be warm, and then all of a sudden you'd hit a cold section, and you'd just swim as fast as you could to get out of that cold spring-fed section. I remember when we were camping out, we'd be in those woods, having a campfire, and then sent to bed to the sound of taps. Well, sometimes you didn't always stay in bed. As tradition has it in Boy Scouts, I think, the older Scouts would kind of lead the younger Scouts, the tenderfoots, on snipe hunts. And we'd be chasing around the fields and chasing the kids around the fields and teasing them about the snipes and having to catch a snipe to be ordered to be promoted. It was a lot of fun. We learned how to use an axe, how to use a knife, how to whittle. I particularly remember learning how to read a map and thinking later when I was in the military that my map learning sessions in Boy Scouts gave me a great education for the military. You don't notice this happening, this learning, when you're doing it because you think it's an achievement. Maybe you learned it to get a merit badge. But bit by bit, you are building yourself into someone who can stand on their own. Someone who also has the values to stand with others. You really learn how to be part of a team, putting up a tent, building a rope bridge. You also learn how to care for yourself and for others. I would say that the Scouts, my church, and the military have really shaped me. I've learned about loyalty through that process, about having each other's back, and the whole time learning about the world and our place in it. I can remember one summer in Boy Scouts from Camp Tionesta, where we would camp every year. We took a different trip, and we got on the Allegheny River in canoes and paddled down the Allegheny River, spent the entire week, and headed to the point in Pittsburgh. It was called Boot and Paddle, and if you wanted to, you could buy a souvenir paddle, and I still have mine. You would paddle for miles and miles. Sometimes we'd find little rapids and paddle through them, then pick up the canoe and go back and do it again. We camped along the way, made our meals along the way. But you really got to see the interior of Pennsylvania. You really got to see the countryside from the river. I still have my merit badge sash packed away with my Order of the Arrow. And I can certainly remember, and I think anybody who's gone through Order of the Arrow remembers that night that you are tapped out in the ceremonial ring, and you spent that day of service in solitude, working in the woods, improving something, fixing a road, whatever it may be. Those are great memories to have. The badges and sashes, I said, are stored away in a closet. But the memories are stored here in my head. Something I know I'll always carry with me all the time is a sense of values, loyalty, respect for others, and love of nature. The ideas of friendship and honor. You hear these things all the time as a little kid. You hear grown-ups talking about it. You hear it in church, you hear it at school. But scouting is a place they teach you to put it all together inside of yourself. It becomes part of you. And there are times when people want to criticize me. They complain, that Corbett, he's such a Boy Scout. And I look them right in the eye and say, you bet I am. I'm a man now, but I'm a man because first I was a Boy Scout. Thank you.